And on the Newsmaker hotline right now, Fox News national security analyst and host of FoxNews.com's DEFCON 3 show at 2 p.m. Wednesdays on live.foxnews.com, our good friend KT McFarland. Hello, KT.
Good morning.
All right, so the president initially said, look, if the Syrians, if they use chemical weapons, that draws a red line. That's a red line.
It's a game changer, Brian.
And then he comes on and he says it's a game changer. And then yesterday he was asked, well, you said it would be a red line event, and you said it was a game changer. Should you have done that? Here's what he said.
When I am making decisions about America's national security and the potential for taking additional action in response to chemical weapon use, I've got to make sure I've got the facts.
So he needs more facts before he takes any action. Okay, good enough. But you know what? When you say something that strong and you draw a line in the sand, and then you don't do anything, doesn't that embolden your enemies? And doesn't it embolden people like North Korea? Doesn't it embolden Ahmadinejad in Iran?
For sure. I mean, look, every parent knows this, right? If you tell your kids, if you're not home by 10 o'clock, you're going to get grounded.
And then you don't do anything.
And then the kid comes home at midnight and nothing happens. What lessons are you sending your kid? First of all, he's never going to believe you again. And also, the other kids in the family are going to look at that and say, she didn't ground him. No way she's going to ground us. They're going to stay out till 2 in the morning. So that's the lesson of this is twofold. One, President Obama, don't run around the world talking about red lines. Don't say, Assad's got to go, or there's a red line in Syria, there's a red line in North Korea, there's a red line with Iran, if you have no idea how you're going to carry those red lines out. And so I think it's time now, in this situation in Syria, to take a deep breath. This is what we did after the Marine barracks bombing when I was at the Pentagon in the early 1980s. You take a deep breath and you decide, where is America's vital national interest in this crisis? It's not necessarily propping up Obama's credibility about red lines. Our national interest is how do you prevent those chemical weapons from getting in the hands of people like Al-Qaeda-related groups that want to use those chemical weapons against America or America's allies. It's not necessarily anything to do with Assad. It's more about the chemical weapons.
There's a story this morning suggesting the Obama administration is prepared to send weapons to the Syrian rebels. Is that a good idea?
We have for 2 years been looking around at these Syrian rebels to try to figure out who are good rebels. And as far as I can tell, we've yet to really identify rebels that we could say solidly are going to win the situation and are going to prevail over the Al-Qaeda rebels. In fact, just the opposite. It seems that the Al-Qaeda rebels are growing in power. So I think we should go in a different direction. Give them humanitarian assistance, yes. Give them training, yes. But don't do to the rebels in Syria what we did with the rebels in Libya. Look at how that's played out. The rebels in Libya, those are the guys who once you arm them, they don't lay down their arms once they topple the dictator. They turn the arms on each other. They turn the arms on you. That's what happened in Benghazi. So I think we should have a different approach. Go to our allies in the region and say, help us seize and destroy those chemical weapons. 2, go to Russia, not publicly, not to shame them, not to scold them, but behind closed doors and say, Russia, you got as much to fear about the rise of radical Islam as we do. We have now seen with Chechnya and the Chechen rebels and the Chechen extremists. You guys were right about that. We both look like idiots over the Boston bombings. How are we going to cooperate over Syria and the chemical weapons in Syria so that we avert a crisis here and we both look a lot better to the world? And then the third thing is, if all else fails, U.S. cruise missile strikes on those chemical weapon sites.
Wow. KT McFarland, can I pivot a little bit back to Korea? It seems like right before the Boston Marathon bombing, and all we heard about in the news dominating the cycle was North Korea. North Korea, their finger was on the button. They were about to, do some sort of nefarious thing. As soon as the news cycle changed with the terror bombing in Boston, it seems like they've disappeared. What has happened?
Oh, I think they're breathing a huge sigh of relief. Said, oh, my gosh, we climbed out on that limb. And now, thank goodness, everybody's paid attention somewhere else. We can kind of scoot back to the main branch of the tree. I've got to assume that China has talked to them and said, pipe down, cool it. They probably have gotten what they want every spring, which is additional food aid and transportation fuel and fuel oil. And so they're back in the hole. But the problem with North Korea is it will be a recurring crisis because of the nuclear weapons. Remember that red line
yes.
that Obama and Bush...
Red lines everywhere.
Red lines everywhere. But the fact of the matter is that what's the takeaway of the North Korean crisis? We now have a acknowledged either officially or unofficially acknowledged nuclear weapons state in North Korea.
Well, you talk about these red lines, and you said, our policy in Syria is not about backing up Barack Obama and what he said, but it's not just about his prestige; it's about American prestige. When he speaks, it's not him speaking; he's speaking on behalf of our country. When Prime Minister Netanyahu draws a red line, I think everyone in the world knows he plans on backing that up.
Right.
But at this point, has the president really lessened America's prestige and America's ability to get other countries to do what we want if he doesn't follow through in some way on this red line?
Just think about the parent and the teenager who broke curfew.
Yeah.
Yes, of course he's done that, but I don't think the United States should go to war to prop up Obama's credibility. It's a huge problem.
Yeah,
And
but isn't it America's credibility?
But it'll be a price America pays. But I think it's a price that's a less costly price tag than the United States getting militarily involved in the middle of someone else's civil war in a situation we cannot prevail.
I think I agree with you, but if I'm Benjamin Netanyahu and I've just witnessed this red line that meant nothing, I'm very nervous.
You bet.
I'm very worried that the president's word is not any good.
Well, but don't you think they've assumed that for a while?
Well, but if they're smart, they have.
I would also say if I am President Obama's successor, he has made the job that much more difficult now.
Completely. Right. Again, the step-parents of the kid who's breaking curfew are going to have a real hard time, too. This is a big problem for the United States, and it'll be a bigger problem when the North Korean crisis, re-emerges, and an even bigger problem than that when Iran, let's say a year from now, 6 months from now, 2 years from now, sometime during the second term of the Obama presidency, crosses their red line.
All right, KT McFarland, Fox News national security analyst, host of FoxNews.com's DEFCON 3 show, which can be seen at 2 p.m. Wednesdays at live.foxnews.com. KT, thanks a lot.
Thank you.